frills, puffy tutus, doting on dolls. Giggling is adored and crying expected. Play dress up, make up. Play pretend and be someone else. Play kitchen, be mommy, throw tea parties. It's just a game. You be the damsel, they'll save you. You be the princess, they'll be your prince. It's a game. It's just a game, right? Looking in mirrors, searching for the hourglass, and failing. Where is it? Magazines, billboards, Hollywood, TV. That is all I see. They want it, that's what they like, so I need it. But where is it? It's fine. Yes, I'm fine. Count the calories, disown the desserts, suck in and smile. Do it. Do it anyway. Bright bikinis, high heels, lacy lingerie. Tighter and shorter. There, that's better. Pain is beauty, and beauty is power. Power held in a smile, a look, a long leg. But by whom? Myself or them? Be sexy, be beautiful. But for whom? Myself or them? Careful, don't send the wrong message. But to whom? Myself or them? Be professional, be commanding, take ownership, infiltrate the sciences, the math, the technology, climb the corporate ladder, break the glass ceiling, break the silence at your own risk. You face it all. Loneliness, broken families, insecurity, judgment, every day, all day, relentless. They trail you like shadows. Do it. Do it anyway. I know how you feel because I feel the same. I look around seeing one gender and I feel alone. Economics, calculus, I do not speak out. I live in self-doubt. And then the anger, frustration like a wave, doubting, always. Who's making me? No one. Everyone. It's all in my head, right? It's just a game, right? This doesn't feel like a game anymore. Play it. Play it anyway. Play to win, to break the silence. Play hard, work harder. I like blue. I like pink. I can cook and throw hooks. I don't need saving. I'm working to save. I'm gentle. I'm calm. And I'm fast. I'm strong. I'm rewriting the rules to this game to be respected the same. Don't worry. We'll end up in the Hall of Fame. It started at the onset, but we'll win this game. A realization that just now came. It's time to show some skin. Break the silence, break the chains, and beat the game that should not exist.
You look hot tonight, he says, voice sweet and slow like molasses, eyes raking up and down my body with such hunger it makes me want to throw up. I smile coyly, laugh, and push him away playfully, but I'm not in the mood. I'm never in the mood. I can't tell him I'm not in the mood. If I do, he he might stop loving me. Come on, baby, it's been so long. He grabs my waist and pulls me in. Every inch of me screams, no, I don't want him to touch me. I start to tell him not tonight. I don't want to. He tells me to be quiet by pressing his mouth against mine. Shh, baby, I know you want to. I don't want to. I never want to. I can't tell him I don't want to. If I do, he might stop loving me. But I really do love him. So it's okay. This has to be okay. Right?
If I should have a daughter, I want to sit her down and tell her everything about this moment, this feeling. I want to tell her how I watched the electoral map of the United States of America go from blue to red. How I looked around at the faces of my friends, mouths slightly open, hands clenched, hearts breaking. How I started walking with no direction or end goal, I just had to walk. How I craved a cigarette and played music so loudly I could barely hear my own ragged breathing. How I sat on the soaking wet, freezing ground and stared at the sky until the tears came. Hot and fast as I felt everything I and millions of others fight for slip through my fingers. If I should have a daughter, I want to tell her how I didn't get up for an hour until my hands went numb and I started breathing in that shaky way you do when you are well and truly empty. How I felt completely and utterly alone. And I want to tell her how I felt that morning. How I felt that for my first time ever voting, I would be helping to elect the first female president. How proud I was, how connected I felt to her and to every other woman in America. How the glass ceiling everyone kept talking about would shatter. And my generation would be the one who cracked it. How broken I felt when it didn't break. If I should have a daughter, I wish to tell her the truth. That hate won. That fear was stronger than hope. That a woman at her best couldn't beat a man at his worst. And I want her to feel what I felt as I watched the man who represented the worst of America celebrate a victory over love, over decency, over progress. How I watched as the first black president handed his presidency over to someone who pledged to destroy his legacy. And I want to tell her this, because I want her to be stronger than me. I don't want her to be shocked and broken when we lose, when progress is reversed in the face of fear. No, I want to tell her this because I was not ready for this. None of us were ready for this. But I want her to be ready for this. I want my daughter to be a fucking warrior. I want her to stare racism, misogyny, and homophobia in the face, and I don't want her to blink. And I want her to laugh in the face of every man who tries to make her feel small. Every man who tells her that her body is his for the grabbing. And if I should have a daughter, I will tell her this because I want her to have a fire inside. That same fire I see in the eyes of every woman. I want her fire to grow until it seems all-consuming. I want her to know that that fire is native to every woman, How in the past women were revered, how somewhere along that line that respect was lost, but how she is deserving of that respect, and how she should demand that respect. I want to tell her that women have a strength that men will never know, how she mustn't be afraid of that strength, and if I should have a daughter, I will teach her this. If I should have a daughter, she will know this. She will remember these moments through me because I will not forget. My daughter will change the world in ways I can't. And if she loses, if she can't quite do it, my daughter will teach her daughter the exact same thing. Because that's the thing about progress. As much as we fight it, it comes anyway. It is inexorable. It is a wave. It is a slow and steady march. It is the ticking of a clock, the coming of a tide. Look, if we can't do it, the next generation will, or the next one, but it will come. We will wait, and it will come in the form of every nasty woman, every daughter. It will come.
Querida counselor, I guess the fact that I can't remember your name is a step in the right direction. It means that you're kind of fading from my memory, and I always hear you should remove toxic people from your life. So this is good, right? Well, I can't seem to remember your name, but I can remember what you said to me my junior year of high school. I told you I wanted to go to Notre Dame. You said, wow, that's a hard school to get into. I agreed. You suggested other schools I should apply to. You were starting to lose me. You see, I had this dream since I was 6, but I listened. As you listed other local colleges I might attend instead. But then, you concluded with something I will never forget. You said, it's amazing you're pursuing this dream since I know your people often end up with jobs like housekeeping. First of all, I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with housekeeping. It's a job that can pay the bills and put food on the table. Me mommy was a housekeeper. She was also a seamstress. She washed dishes and mowed grass. She was the nanny of a little girl even after my older sister was born. She took care of another little girl while her own had to wait for her mommy's work to be over. She's currently a food service worker and has had just about every other Hispanic job you can think of. But my mom did these things to help our family get by, and I am proud of her for it. To suggest that people like my mom are lesser people, only a stereotype for having these jobs, disgusts me. She did what she had to do, and I am eternally grateful. And before you say that people like my mom must not amount to much because they have working class jobs, let me tell you, mi mami graduated from college. I plan to do the same at Notre Dame. Sincerely, a Notre Dame student who wouldn't mind being a housekeeper if it meant I could be half the hero my mom is.
A winter evening, I was sitting by the lake, sobbing like a child. I just walked out of my advisor's office. I was planning to ask my advisor for some suggestions on how I can better prepare myself for medical school in the US. After I told her my international student status, she raised up her head and stared at me, saying, "Do you know how hard it is for you, an international student from China, to get into medical school here? Now waiting for my answer, she kept saying, "Are your parents planning to immigrate to the US?" In the following 30 minutes, instead of giving me any useful suggestions, she was trying to convince me either immigrate to the US or at least get a green card. Another time, I went to a social event organized by a Chinese student organization. When I introduced myself as a pre-med, one guy laughed. Then he kindly suggested to switch my major to something easier, or at least pursue a career in business. The reason? Well, there are more job openings in business. Or, he kept saying, "You better tell your parents to immigrate to US now." To be honest, as an international student, I have known a long time that medical school is never going to be an easy journey. I have known the chances for me to get into a US medical school is 90% lower compared to a US citizen. And yes, I panic a lot. I still remember in the past 3 years, I would wake up in the middle of the night so many times, sweating and worrying that I could never become a doctor. But I never regretted it. Because I know my dream is worth all those late nights staying up studying organic chemistry. I know it is worth all those weekends I spent in the research lab. And I know it is worth all the loneliness, being far away from my family. Even if it means I cannot go to my grandfather's funeral. However, I was never discouraged by those sacrifices. Rather, what hurt me the most were the words of my advisors, my upperclassmen, and those like them. They hurt me by telling me that my hard work could never pay off, and that my talent in science and passion could never make me qualified as a good doctor. More importantly, they reminded me that my international student status is the barrier, the stigma, and the shame that I should try hard to hide or get rid of. Three years later, after receiving a phone call from my interviewer, I cried again because I finally get into a US medical school as an international student. Finally, I can be the person I want to be since 15 years old, to heal those in suffering, advocate for the underprivileged, and fight for equality and fundamental human rights. So, after telling you all of this, I just want you to know, if others tell you you cannot do it, if you're doubting yourself like my younger self, or if you're discouraged by your international student status, please listen to me. I know it may sound cliche, but please listen. Yes, you can do it, even though it may take a little bit longer. No, your international student status does not mean you're a second-class citizen here, and your Chinese or whichever accent does not define you or your ability. And no, not other people, not your peers, not your advisors, not even your parents can tell you what you should do or what you should be. Only you can tell you what your heart is and what it is craving for.
I have a lot of white guilt. My saving grace? At least I'm not a white male. Boy, that would suck.
The day Donald Trump was elected president, I considered calling in sick. As a queer, black, female immigrant, I just wanted a black leave of absence. I come from a country that's not very friendly to queer people, so I saw coming here as my sort of escape. In my ideal college utopia, the next 4 years were going to be a chance for me to explore my sexuality and even consider moving to an LGBT-friendly country. Yes, I was aware of the subtle discrimination you face as a black person in this country and police brutality. But I was unaware of the amount of hate some white people have in their hearts. It has not been a very easy transition into Notre Dame. I've had many dinners by myself, but I've never felt more alone than I did that night.
Here's to the countless nights I spent with my sisters, crowded on our worn blue living room couch, eyes glued to the TV or my laptop screen, trying to avoid the monster that sat a mere 10 feet away from us. Every single night I saw you come home, and for a pathetic 5 minutes, I saw my dad, my father, my supposed role model. Then you retreated quietly but blatantly into the shadows of the laundry room to escape the pressing shame just long enough to pour yourself one more drink. You emerged a beast, a shell of the man I call my father. But no, this was my actual father, the man I was supposed to look up to. The man who drowned in rage and pain every fucking night as he drowned his sorrows in vodka and orange juice. I remember no ball games or fishing trips. I just remember the intense wrenching pain radiating through my heart as I saw your eyes roll back into your skull, your head jerking clumsily, looking for a fight. Nothing satisfied those eyes. That critical, disoriented, profoundly unhappy state. I thought you were possessed. I knew that the devil was in the glass right beside you, but I couldn't differentiate between you and that bottle, you and that evil, so it all ran together in a blurry vision of hate, clouded red with fierce, unrelenting anger, plagued by a heart cold with despair. I had been knocked in the head, placed into the trunk of a car, hands bound behind my back and blindfold shrouding my eyes as I was sped through my childhood. No time to stop and smell the roses, just the familiar, unending darkness that would have consumed me completely had there not been that occasional speed bump to knock me out of my days and remind me there was a life I was supposed to be living. I remember the nights you passed out at 6 o'clock and how grateful I was that although you didn't know how my day went, what I had learned in school, my sisters, my mother and I wouldn't spend that night in fear of a vicious verbal onslaught. I remember watching you pass out as you gracelessly raised to your mouth the homemade slice of pizza that Mom had so carefully and caringly made. My heart cringed every time I saw your eyes open again, begging for this pain to end. And when your eyes lost their futile battle and your mind slipped, I saw the pain on Mom's eyes. Behind a facade of strength, as she got up to clear your plate. I remember showing you videos of that night, begging for you to stop. I remember the promises that came, and the hope that came with those. Each lasting no more than a paltry 3 days before that monster returned with a vengeance to crush out that spirit of hopeful optimism. But those were Father's promises, and I stopped believing in them a long time ago. I don't know if you ever stopped believing. I remember you would only buy the small bottles of vodka, just enough for one night, because surely tonight was going to be the last night. Tomorrow, you would come to your senses and stop drowning in this pain, because this little habit was never supposed to continue. Maybe you promised it to yourself. If only you realized what your promises meant. I remember one day having to skip soccer practice after a particularly stressful day at school to relax and catch up on homework. And Mom was away on business, but I wasn't afraid because you had committed to sobriety months before. And then I texted you, and the blinders of denial set in when all I received were incoherent, disjointed replies. My world collapsed when you finally answered your phone with that slurred, confused drawl. You shrugged and said sorry when you finally picked me up from school. I remember getting mad at you for being drunk and getting all those people in danger. I was the father you had failed to be for me. But I couldn't stay mad. I knew that bullshit shrug and apology should have ignited my heart with rage. Maybe I should have walked away, shut you out of my life forever. But I could not walk away because I remember just months before, when we had finally left, it wasn't more than a week without us before I first saw you. I remember the quivering voice and swelling eyes as you came up to me and you said, you loved me. And I can't thank you enough because I love you too. So much. Because I remember your face light up with every lacrosse or soccer win, you pacing up and down the sidelines trying to get a better view. So I wanted to say thank you because I know you're only human, and humans, we fuck up. We do awful, unimaginable things to one another. We fight, we scream, we hurt. So I'm proud I didn't walk away from you that day. Because you taught me that in a world suffocated by hate, love is the only thing we can do. And Dad, one day I hope I can love just like you.
Labor markets, minimum wages, words I hear every day. Why is it that knowing so much about the economy, I still feel helpless? Helpless after my dad told me they laid him off for a couple of weeks because work was slow. Because in order to make profit during a recession, employers lower the numbers of employees since they can't lower wages. I've heard this a million times. Basic economics. I forget, I still have to worry about these things. Notre Dame makes you feel like that. Like that paper, that midterm are the end of the world. But They're not. There's so much more to the world. So much that's forgotten in the Notre Dame bubble. How many times do I have to remind my parents that I'll be fine? That they don't need to send me money, that I'll much rather send them money from my savings. Confidence is key, right? No te preocupes, mami. Si me hace falta, puedo pedir 2.800 en préstamo bien fácil. Don't worry about it, Mom. If I need to, I can just take out 2,800 in loans. Even though internally, I'm freaking out because I only wanted to take 2,000 in loans. How am I going to pay for those 800? 800. In the grand scheme of life, 800 doesn't seem like something to worry about, especially not at Notre Dame, and especially not when you're talking about million-dollar public policies every day, and especially not when your friends are talking about a $900 weekend to a faraway island, and especially not for a future Notre Dame grad. But they are, for a low-income student with a low income, currently unemployed immigrant father whom conservatives are always blaming for the state of the economy, even though he's just trying to make a living for us in this country. And I can hear the disgrace in his voice when he tells me he's unemployed. Disgrace because he can't provide for his family. I wish I could hug my dad and tell him how much I appreciate the sacrifices he's made for me. Both him and my mom. I wish I could provide them both with well-paying and satisfying jobs. But sadly, only me and my siblings will probably have that luxury. And I know all the factors that are working for and against my dad in this situation. Immigrant, hard worker, English learning, resilient, Hispanic, strong support system, middle age. How come I can't do anything with this knowledge yet? It's because education is a long-term investment. But if you don't have that much time, if you need change now, what do? There's such a big divide between what I'm learning and what I'm experiencing here in Notre Dame. How do I cross that bridge? I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm scared. I'm scared of not making it out of school like so many people I know. I'm scared of when my dad's next paycheck will come. I'm scared of not being able to provide for my family, my community.
I didn't know what caused me to feel depressed or have anxiety or experience the ridiculous mood swings week to week until last night. As I watched the poll numbers roll in and my heart started to clench, I understood. It's guilt. I feel bad about so many of the choices that I made, that the unhappiness I have with the life I'm living is killing me. I'm guilty for supporting Hillary Clinton, but not voting at all because I knew my state was blue. I'm guilty for leaving exams to check my phone for answers in the bathroom. I'm guilty for judging people before I get to know them. I'm guilty of cutting a line at burger night. I'm guilty about whining about things not going my way. I'm guilty of shuddering after I shake Father Jenkins' hand. I'm guilty of lying to my mom about how I'm doing in school. I'm guilty of avoiding the mushy parts of a banana. I'm guilty of not telling my family I'm a queer man. I'm guilty of having a crush on a good friend. And 2 weeks ago, I was guilty of holding a handful of pills in my hand, ready to just get out of this giant grave of a life that I've dug for myself. Of course, it's now, when I'm terrified for the future of our country, that all the emotions just hit me. As I sit here, writing this in the corner of the Hesburgh reading room, tears streaming down my face, all I can say is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. On the outside, I come across as this happy-go-lucky guy, but I can't begin to explain the persistent sadness that sits on my shoulders. However, rather than letting this feeling fester silently in my head, I'm sharing it here. A cathartic explosion of words and emotions. Damn, I'm so dramatic and angsty. Go me. So, I'm making a change to get better. I'm trying. Here's to no longer being quiet. Here's to living guilt-free. Here's to breaking the silence.
Dear white liberals, are you talking over people of color right now?
It's the end of Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm about to fall apart. I've been hanging on, barely, but the panic is beginning to set in, and I can feel the thoughts spilling out of my control. Last week, I told the therapist I thought I could make it through. I was even looking forward to seeing my family for the holiday. But I didn't expect the stares or the whispers. I didn't expect my uncle asking, "What happened to you last year?" Or my grandmother telling me, "You look so much better now that you've put some meat on your bones." So when my cousin leans over the stuffing and tells me, "I'm so glad you decided to stop dieting," I lose it. I make my excuses, and I escape to the bathroom, and as I click the lock shut, I collapse onto the cold tiles. I've been in recovery for almost 6 months now, but the thoughts are a special kind of black today. The whirlwind has been swirling for hours, sucking me down deeper into the darkness. Here as I lie with my face pressed against the cool porcelain of the bathtub, I let myself dissolve into the storm of thoughts. It takes me back to a year ago to last Thanksgiving. The voices were strong then, whispering an ugly worthlessness in my ear. Each bite was a fight, my body a battleground. Last year, I didn't make it past the appetizers before I surrendered to the thoughts and hid in the bathroom. There I sat, hunched on the toilet seat, little food I'd eaten like a rock in my belly. I remember lifting my shirt and feeling the folds of skin on my stomach. I remember staring in the mirror, staring at the ridges of my collarbones that jutted from my shrunken shoulders, staring at my protruding hip bones and raised ribs. I stared at my wasted body, but all I saw was failure, empty worthlessness, sinful shame. I remember turning on the faucet and putting my face under its cold blast, desperately trying to wake up from this nightmare. Drops dripped from my eyelashes onto my gaunt cheeks. My fingers drifted to my forearms, my nails digging deep into my skin to ease the massive guilt in my mind, red and raw with pain. But with a jolt, I hear my brother calling my name and I'm back to the present. Pleading with my body, I return to Thanksgiving dinner. Where have you been? My mother asks. Oh, nowhere, just the bathroom, I say, and plaster a smile on my face. You see, they don't know. They don't know the fight isn't over yet. The war, in my mind, is a hidden one, but that doesn't make it any less lethal. I'm fighting to love my body for what it can do, not what it looks like, so don't tell me I look better now that I've put meat on my bones. Don't tell me you're glad I chose to stop dieting. I didn't choose anything, as if I would have chosen a disorder that stole 2 years from my life, as if I would have chosen the soul-crushing disease that ended friendships, stole my joy, and nearly took my life. So don't tell me that I should eat my dessert so I can fatten up. I've survived a hell beyond anything you can imagine. And maybe one day I'll be willing to share that with you, and I hope you'll listen. But until then, love me and give me space to heal.
Dear friend, yes, your skin color is different from mine. Yes, we are of different genders. But no, I do not hate you. I do not hate you for being white. I do not resent you for being male. I do not think you're a racist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, or a bigot. If I did, I wouldn't love you. But because I love you, I do reserve the right to tell you that you are privileged. To tell you that you are privileged because you're white, male, and wealthy. To tell you that you are exempt from certain struggles I'm faced with every day because you're white and I'm not. My dear friend, I love you. But if you love me back, please understand that you're privileged. And to be privileged doesn't make you evil.
I have been trapped inside one for as long as I can remember. Most of them have been invisible and created of my own volition, but there are others that have bars and locks. They come in all shapes and sizes. The worst kind is the one that you don't even know that you're in. It can be best described as oppression or holding down of sorts in the physical, mental, and spiritual. It can be beneficial to the holding of animals, but humans do not belong in them. It knows your weaknesses and preys on your mind. It can and will drive you insane. It won't discriminate, as there's one waiting for you if you choose it. By the time you realize you're vulnerable, convincing you that you can't trust anybody, it already has you. It deceives you, playing tricks on your mind. I'm not here to tell you that there can be no hope for redemption or that you won't be able to escape the grip of the cage. I offer these words in the hopes that you will avoid the one that's waiting for you. I was a prisoner to myself long before the state of Indiana chose to send me to prison. I lived in a cage, being selfish, lying, cheating, deceiving, hurting, all of those in my path. My cage prevented any beneficial relationship from happening in my life. Where once I could not see the range of the cage, I now have a full understanding and new appreciation of the cage. What did it take for me to respect the cage? I had to be placed in an actual cage inside of a prison for me to reflect and see that my cage has led me to this point. The cage is a dangerous place to be. It will hold on to you for as long as you let it. It has held on to me for too long. And now I can say with the utmost confidence that I am no longer a slave to the cage. I still live in one, but that soon will be coming to an end.
You asked me to speak up. I thought I'd try. You asked me to speak up, and so did Notre Dame. Ding, an automated email. Please fill out the sexual conduct and campus climate questionnaire. So I did, sitting in a cubicle in the library, ticking off boxes, tip-tip typing. With each question, a more heated response. With each question, my face grew hotter, my heartbeat raced a little faster. I was so angry. I am so angry. I'm angry because in September, one of my friends confided in me she was raped her freshman year. She reported, and nothing ever happened to him. I'm angry because for over 2 years, one of my friends was physically and emotionally abused by her boyfriend behind closed doors. She reported, and nothing sufficient ever happened to him. And I'm angry because almost 2 years ago, I got too drunk, but I still let a guy buy me a drink at the bar, and I stumbled home with him. And I know I laughed and said I was way too drunk, but he was bigger and stronger and could carry me, and I thought that was nice. So I let him lead me back to his dorm, and I don't really remember the in-between, but then we were naked, and then he was on top of me, and I remember I did want to at first, but I was so drunk and so sleepy, and I told him I just wanted to go to bed. But he ignored me, and he didn't stop. I told him to stop, but he kept going, and I remember I did try. I tried to push him off, but it didn't stop, and then I hit my head on the radiator, and I don't really remember after that. And that's what scares me the most. I never did anything about it. I was too drunk, and I think he was too, but I'm not really sure. All I was sure of the next morning was the tennis ball-sized lump on the back of my head and the pit in my stomach. That haziness that surrounds that whole night. I had seen too many documentaries, read too many articles. I refused to be just another girl that dressed too slutty and got too drunk and had sex with an athlete and betrayed her Catholic moral compass and ruined his career and turned the entire school and the nation against her. Maybe a worst case scenario, but still highly possible, highly probable, if I told anyone. But what makes me want to throw up? What makes me want to tear my hair out? I just pretended like nothing happened. I sugarcoated the story to my friends. I responded to my rapist's texts. If he was nice and funny when he was sober, there was no way he could have raped me. Right? I've only admitted to myself that I was assaulted when I had to tick the boxes, when I was typing this monologue out. Because I'm not the kind of girl who gets raped, right? I'm tall and strong and a student athlete. I get good grades and I have an amazing family and support system. And I have fun with my friends and I make art and I speak out against sexism and I've helped my friends who have gone through similar situations. But it would never, could never happen to me. It just couldn't. But it did. It did. And I did nothing. I feel nothing. Am I? Nothing? There is no kind of girl who gets raped. It's you and it's me and it's not just girls. It's anyone who's vulnerable and who gets used by someone who's not. You asked me to break the silence. I still can't bring myself to just shout it from the rooftops, to admit to the people that I love what happened in the darker corners of my world 2 years ago. For now, I prefer to hide from the ugliness, from the world, from myself. At least I can tell you in secret. Is a secret still silence? Either way, thanks for listening. I feel a little bit better now.
Stop telling women to smile.
Stop expecting women to apologize.
Stop approaching women with instinctive entitlement.
Stop blaming women for the violence done to them.
Not happy, not sorry, not your property, not our fault.
Hey, are you okay?
Yeah, I just feel a bit weird. Not like myself.
Let me know if you ever want to talk.
Yeah, sure. Maybe it was the lack of sunlight in the winter. Maybe it was my inability to forgive and forget small pains inflicted by my friends. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm too kind. Maybe I'm too trusting. Maybe I'm too something.
Hey, you've been different lately.
I know. I've been depressed.
Well, just cheer up.
I didn't know how to explain it to people, so I didn't try. They would just tell me to be happy or to forget about my sadness. They didn't understand that depression was the inability to forget. The permanence of every stupid thing you've ever done on replay in your head. Doubting your truest friendships, becoming paranoid, and the enigma of needing endless affirmation that you just can't allow yourself to receive. I didn't know it, but it was creeping up behind me. Then it struck like a dagger in my stomach. Twisted, pulled away, in my body came ugliness, paranoia, fear, anger, all came bubbling to the surface of the thin, fragile shell that remained of who I was. I hate you, screamed at my best friend and roommate. You don't understand me, snapped angrily at my loving parents. The end of freshman year, my world was hanging together by a thread. I still reached out to friends and salvaged the relationships that I could. Sophomore year, that all changed. During the first month of school, I thought I'd be okay. I was leaning on my friends as a support system. I don't know when or how, but somehow that changed. I must have been too withdrawn, too sensitive, too angry, too something. Maggie stopped sharing location with you. Hey, are you mad at me? No. Want to get lunch then? No. Did I do something? You're sure you're not mad? Yep. I began to awfulize every interaction I had with other human beings. My depression was choking off my access to happiness, suffocating my ability to love others and to allow myself to be loved. If my old friends didn't love me, then how could anyone else? I was too much to handle at my worst. I decided it was less painful for me and for those around me if I chose to isolate myself. Over fall break, I spent 2 days on a mission trip before being rushed home and immediately beginning an emergency dose of Prozac. I couldn't concentrate. What had once been the happiest place in the world for me was just another place in which I replayed everything I had ever done wrong in my brain. I just couldn't escape from my thoughts of isolation and hurt. Being home with family was a godsend. My family held me and loved me and cared for me in the way I had been missing all those months. I was wounded, tired, and defeated. I dreaded going back to school after a month of not speaking to my best friends. Hey, I need a friend. I'm crying at the library and I just need a hug.
You need professional help.
But
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
I spent the next several nights lying awake in bed, physically holding my hands over my heart and willing it not to break into a million pieces. I spent the next several months closing my eyes to fall asleep at night and wishing I wouldn't wake up in the morning. I didn't even have the courage to go through with it. What if life does get better like they all say it will? I am so alone. I am so alone. I am so alone, played on an endless repeat in my head. I wanted to rip down the motivational posters in my room that chirped sickeningly about happiness and joy. I've tried just about everything else besides having friends. I tried prayer and counseling. When that proved too difficult, I betrayed my promise to myself. I tried drinking, smoking, meaningful sex, and meaningless sex. I just don't have the support system I once had. If you have a friend like this, reach out. Ask them how they are. Forgive. Be there to support them in their darkest moments. They're embarrassed. They're sorry. They're trying their best. We're all trying our best. It won't just take one single person. It takes a community of people to make you look forward to getting out of bed each day. Be a part of that community in someone's life. Spread kindness. Spread love. If someone has the courage to tell you their struggles, validate them. Comfort them. Be what you can to them. My battle with mental illness is far from complete. It is something with which I will struggle my whole life. It will complicate friendships, relationships, and careers, but it is something that I must deal with. Maybe someday it will get the better of me, but I will have lived my life trying to help others in my position. I will have lived my life spreading love. I will have lived my life encouraging sensitivity and openness in conversations. I beg you to do the same. It could save a life.
Thank you for listening.